Well, hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. This one is a big one. All of my fellow conservative commentators are asking, who's the deep state? How does the deep state go into the Director of National Intelligence office and seize these files of MK Ultra, the PSYOP program back from the 1950s and the JFK files? How can the deep state do this? For the first time, as long as I can remember, I'm going to actually defend the deep state. The deep state is actually being used as a scapegoat here. This was not the deep state that went in there. This was the CIA under the direction of the director of the CIA with approval from the highest levels of the White House. I actually believe President Trump as well. There is no way, folks, that the CIA goes and seizes 40 boxes of secret files that by executive order are supposed to be released to the public without approval from the President of the United States. So why would the president agree to this? Well, I believe the president was convinced by John Ratcliffe. Now, this is all my deduction from seeing what's happening, my years in Washington and covering this. I believe that the president was convinced, and probably rightly so, as hard as that is to hear, that some of the tactics and techniques that would have been revealed would have compromised national security. So I am all about exposing the lie of the PSYOP, of the deep state actions. I'm not for exposing the techniques that allow us to carry out operations against our enemies, carrying out operations against innocent American civilians, completely unacceptable. So it's a fine line here. And I think President Trump saw that some of this can't be released. Go get the documents, even against my executive order. There's no way this happened without the White House's approval. And anybody that thinks differently, you're naive. You really are. And the obvious is never what it is in Washington, D.C. Things are never what they seem in Washington, D.C. So I'm going to go through why I believe this is the case. And why I believe Anna Paulina Luna, who's a congresswoman I have so much respect for, she's great, by the way. But this is the one instance she's not thinking strategically. She's making demands. Don't go against the president. You'll get MTG'd. You'll get massied. Be very careful here. Maybe there's a bigger plan. President Trump's always right. Have some faith in him that he knows what he's doing. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's no way this was done behind his back. And the CIA whistleblower, though I find him very brave for coming forward about Fauci, remember he's still a CIA agent, okay? Remember that, folks. All right, with that, let me tell you about my friends. Oh, you know what I want to do is I want to tell you about my friends over at Lost Soldier Oil and Gas. Let's see, at what is it? 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock Eastern time, I believe, if I get my time zones correct. We are going to be on a webinar to go through all of the benefits of this oil and gas project in Wyoming that I've been telling you so much about, lostsoldier.com. That's lostsoldier.com. This major gas discovery in Wyoming. They've already hit these high-pressure formations. They have plans to make this a liquid investment. I just found out last night within a year. So the returns are pretty remarkable. I'll let them talk to you about that. Go to lostsoldier.com, click on the Invest Now, and I think there may be a button that says sign up for the webinar this afternoon. We've got a lot of people on that webinar. We're going to be taking questions. The entire management team from Lost Soldier is there. This will be a great opportunity for you to find out more about this project that I think is just tremendous. lostsoldier.com. That's lostsoldier.com. All right, with that, let's get the show started.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
All right, welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. Listen to me carefully. There's no way the CIA storms into Tulsi Gabbard's Director of National Intelligence office, seizes boxes without the CIA director knowing, and if the CIA director knew he was going to defy one of President Trump's executive orders, there is no way the president of the United States doesn't know about this. It's easy to blame the deep state rogue agents in the CIA stealing these documents. Come on. There are most certainly rogue agents inside the CIA, but they're not storming the DNI's office. The approval for this to happen, in my opinion, came from the highest levels of government. That includes the highest levels of the White House. That includes President Trump. And I understand why he gave the approval. Now, this will get a lot of you angry because I actually believe some things have to remain top secret. Some things are not for all of our eyes. And it's mostly not about us. It's about our enemies. It's about our enemies getting information that they should not have, and us losing a tactical advantage. Now, whether you like it or not, psyops, political games, misinformation campaigns are all things that are being conducted globally by our enemies, by our allies, an espionage campaign. It's going on. We have to remain relevant when it comes to that. What I don't like is when those games are run against innocent American people. So when it comes to COVID, for instance, and we had this whistleblower that came forward saying that Fauci knew about the cover-up, and Fauci actively helped cover up the lab leak theory. I believe we need to find out about that. We need to expose the lie. What we don't need to expose is the tactic and technique. The tactic and technique, that's national security reasons. So this MK Ultra, those are the files that were in question. This was a 1950s program. They used LSD. There was even word that they were paying prostitutes to bring men back to hotels, secretly giving them LSD, studying how they would behave. All this stuff. That is completely inappropriate. Mind control, psychological operations, using drugs to do it, that is still well within the bailiwick of what the CIA and Defense Intelligence Agency do today. This is the bread and butter of intelligence. I believe there were tactics and techniques in the MK Ultra files from the 1950s that are still being used today. Those could not be released. I believe there's a part of them that did not trust Tulsi Gabbard. Now, John Ratcliffe, the director of the CIA, is very close with President Trump. He is one of President Trump's most trusted advisors. President Trump needs the CIA. He needs the CIA actually more than the director of national intelligence. Now, on the chart, the org chart, the DNI is above the CIA, but again, in Washington, it only matters what the White House wants. So the White House needs the CIA. The president needs John Ratcliffe. Cuba, Iran, China, Venezuela, all of these threats that the CIA is following as John Ratcliffe tries to take control of the CIA. Is the deep state still there? Of course they are dug in. Of course. But we're better off with Ratcliffe at the helm. I believe these files had some dangerous things in it. Ratcliffe Clemens says, hey, we can't release this. We'll seize the documents. We'll blame it on the deep state. And we'll give plausible deniability to everyone. Trump, you didn't violate your executive order or break a promise. And look at the deep state just doing their thing, seizing the documents. It'll never really go anywhere. Everybody's in on it, including the whistleblower. The whistleblower yesterday, I believe, had approval not just to come forward about Fauci, but it was a plan to drop this little nugget about the 40 boxes being seized. He's a CIA operative, for crying out loud. They don't ever stop being CIA operatives. And for everybody to fall for this, oh, look at the deep state. The deep state's responsible for a lot of bullcorn in this country. But this was all by design. This was 100% an operation to preserve operational techniques used by the intelligence community. I do believe it. So now you've got Anna Paulina Luna coming out with here, let me get this off the screen. Anna Paulina Luna coming out with this, and I believe she's well-intentioned.
This is not a threat. This is going to happen. If those files are not returned within the next 24 hours, you will be called, your faces will be made public in front of the entire American people. All of Congress will see it, and we will hold you accountable for going against a direct executive order by the president and interfering with a congressional investigation. So return the files. Do not destroy documents. You will get a preservation of documents notice for Congress, and any member of the CIA that engages in undermining this investigation will be held criminally accountable. And I'm also waiting for a call back from Todd Blanche, the acting attorney general. We are not playing games with you. Return the documents.
Congresswoman, you know I love you. I really do. And the work you do really is very, very important. But you need to step back and look at this. So while you're demanding this, you're demanding something that President Trump is behind. Now, what is President Trump going to think about you now gumming up the plan that he had for all of this? He's not going to like it. And you're not going to be calling in any CIA agents because they're not going to reveal the names. You're never going to get this. This will quietly go away. You watch. It will quietly go away. It will fade away. I'd be shocked if Anna Paulina Luna didn't already get a call from the White House saying, hey, honey, back off. Back off. You have to think 2 steps ahead. You think rogue agents are just going to storm DNI's office against a President Trump's executive order? Come on, because that would be the result. You'd have investigations going. Todd Blanche is going to say, hey, would you just back off? This is Trump's plan. There were things in there that can't be released. This gives us plausible deniability. Just let it fade away, okay? And so if she doesn't let it fade away, be very careful, Congresswoman Luna, because you'll get MTG'd, all right? You'll get massied. Trump can destroy a political career in a second. And I want to make this very clear. I understand why President Trump is doing this, and I also understand why he wouldn't want you to know that he's doing it, because the base freaks out about stuff like this. But the base needs to realize, and you don't get more MAGA than me. I think most of you would agree with me that I'm MAGA. I am MAGA to the core. But I do know that we have dangerous threats. I do know that the intelligence community, well-intentioned intelligence community members, not all of them, the well-intentioned ones, need the tools to operate. Now, I'm not saying that I'm a big fan of FISA and all of that stuff. I don't like going after innocent American civilians. But I'm fine going after our enemies, and I'm fine not revealing the techniques. Expose the lie, not the technique. And so, look, President Trump has his reasons, and I always fall back on this. When President Trump does something, I'm left scratching my head like, oh, no, why are we doing this? He's always right. He's always steps ahead of where we are, okay? President Trump is always ahead of the game. And because he's ahead of the game, I put my faith in him. And that's what I'm going to ask you to do as well. Put your faith in President Trump that what happened here was by design. Now, who else jumps on board with this? I mean, look, and again, I like Jesse Waters, but even this was last night. He got the story wrong.
And this just in, John. The CIA just raided Tulsi Gabbard's office. Agents hauled out dozens of boxes, files on the JFK assassination and MK Ultra, the CIA mind control operation, which she was in the process of declassifying. Today's whistleblower said it during his deposition, and Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna confirmed it moments ago.
The reason why this is troubling is, A, there was an executive order that the president had directed the full declassification of JFK, but then also to the MK Ultra files. The CIA famously has said that, all documents were released and other documents had been destroyed. So these are allegedly those documents that apparently never existed.
So, first off, he says they just raided. It didn't happen now. It happened a while ago. It's like months old, the story. So I'm just getting texted from my producer at the Rav show, okay? That now, word is, and this makes sense, and I appreciate him texting me, Gabbard spokesperson pushes back on reported federal raid of office. Office of Director of National Intelligence pushing back on the reporting of the CIA raid. This is false, they say. A spokesperson for the Director of National Intelligence wrote on the social platform she was referencing now deleted post from Fox host Jesse Waters about the alleged raid. The CIA did not raid the DNI's office. Waters was citing comments from Representative Anna Paulina Luna talking about the files. You also had this whistleblower that was saying it. The reason, well, let's see. I'm looking. The Florida Republican noted that she personally called CIA Director John Ratcliffe to discuss the alleged FBI raid. In a follow-up post after the interview, Luna said this is not an issue with Ratcliffe or Gabbard. I am noticing a few large accounts stating falsely. I claim there was a raid on Tulsi. Now, Anna Paulina Luna's office is backtracking. Folks, as we're doing this podcast live, it is now unfolding exactly what I told you. Now, they're not telling you the full details. The files most certainly are gone. It was not a raid, meaning they went there and they took the documents. Okay? I never thought they would storm DNI's office. It was not a raid, is what Tulsi Gabbard is saying, which means I handed them over willingly, which means the White House wanted the documents. Okay? I'm looking at Dash Hip's comment. Yes, what Grant's saying was repeated in a book by writers Handel Thomas Paine. Trump was ahead of those guys 2 steps every time, according to that writer. Well, I agree, and I don't know what was in that book. I've never read it before, but it would be interesting to see. Thank you, Dash Hip, for the comments. All of this is fascinating to me. I love the fact that we come on here. I give you the straight scoop, and in real time, okay, real time, they start to unwind the story. Why? Whether we want to say they're busted, I don't even know if it was something to bust. Like, I do believe that there was plausible deniability wanted for taking the documents. It was a setup to drop this. Anna Paulina Luna goes crazy. I told you she needed to calm down, and now already, while on the podcast, she's backtracking. I told you she would get a call from the White House, which is exactly, in my opinion, what happened. There was no raid. We don't need an investigation. Did I not just say that? And now we have this report from the Hill. Unbelievable. So yes, it's exactly as we were playing it out. Exactly. So I'm going to tell my producer to watch the podcast now so he gets a good feel for what we're doing tonight. I told you I can't talk and text. All right, so with that, we'll keep following this story, but already the backtrack story goes. And okay. So let me tell you about my friends over at VRA Insider. I just got a big tip about an IPO today that honestly, if you go sign up right now, you have enough time to learn about this. VRAinsider.com. That's VRAinsider.com. You get a 2-week free trial to this. 2 weeks free. And I urge you to go check it out and sign up for the 2 free weeks. You get the 10 baggers. That's stocks, ETFs, with a potential of 1,000% gains. Some you know, some you don't. You'll get alerts to IPOs that the team believes has a potential for huge gains. I just got one today. You may have time to still get in on it. If you go sign up for VRA Insider, go do it now. You'll get access to that. I have been so happy. I've taken this sizable portion of my account, moved it over to the VRA, moved it over to totally follow the VRA system. And I'm up big money. I really am. These guys have been great. VRAinsider.com. That's VRAinsider.com. Go sign up right now to get your free 2-week trial, and you'll get access to everything. The inside, you get to see every trade they've ever made, and I think you're going to be very, very impressed with it. All right. So one of the things the whistleblower did talk about yesterday is the cover-up of COVID. All right. So the cover-up of COVID is going on. And we know that Fauci played an active role in it. In fact, the whistleblower told us that he played an active role in it. Now, here's something else I don't believe. I don't believe the whistleblower is actually a whistleblower. I believe he had approval from the CIA. And one of the reasons I do is because there was this dance going on between the CIA and this little nugget that was dropped about the CIA going into Tulsi Gabbard's office. All of this thing seemed totally by design. It was too coordinated, like one giant piece of theater. But in the end, I believe he was told he can give it up on the COVID origins. Here he is.
It appeared to be bureaucratic slow rolling until the government shutdown happened.
Well, that is the technique they use.
Yes.
I mean, they look at every administration or every director of CIA, and if they don't agree with them, this too shall pass, right? They just wait them out. I mean, that's happening right now in both of our investigations. So, again, I am calling for a church-like commission. We'll call it the Paul Johnson Commission, okay? We need to figure out who runs the deep state. But in my final 3 minutes, because I held what I thought was a blockbuster hearing 2 weeks ago.
It was very good.
And this is on my investigation in terms of the harms done by the COVID injection. And I'm going to talk about it right now because
we need to know who the deep state is. This is something Johnson says over and over and over again. Who is the deep state? I was fascinated listening to this whistleblower explain just how deep Fauci's role went into all of this.
The CIA refused to provide information necessary to understand why analytical standards at the CIA were violated. The CIA illegally monitored the computer and phone usage of DIG personnel, their investigations, and contact with whistleblowers. These were Americans being spied upon illegally while executing duties directed by the president and under the authority of the Director of National Intelligence. One CIA contractor assisting with the DIG's investigation into the events that transpired between 2022 and 2023 was fired by the CIA 1 day after meeting with the DIG. When the DIG ceased operations, the CIA also took back 40 boxes of JFK files and MK Ultra files being processed for declassification by DNI Gabbard.
There was the little bombshell. Now, do you know what the DIG is? DIG is the Directors Initiative Group. It was formed under executive order by President Trump to get to the bottom of this. It was quietly disbanded. The intelligence community found it far too dangerous to dig in on this, which tells you, in some respects, there's two things at play. One, the information held by the intelligence community is so sensitive that even once the President of the United States, who is so adamant about transparency, gets a hold of it, even he realizes he can't let it out. That becomes an absolute truth. And you now see why every president before President Trump did not release many of these files, much to our dismay, but probably to our benefit. And we don't like to admit that, but in many cases, to our benefit. The other side to this is that the intelligence community is dug in, and it actually does have control. There is a permanent shadow government operating in Washington, D.C. today. The permanent shadow government run by the ruling class of Washington. Now, who is that? Is there one leader? I don't think there is. Have you ever seen a flock of birds fly, especially those ones that fly so close together and they fly in formation and they move and they go and they almost operate as one? That's what I believe the deep state is. I can't tell you there's a head of the deep state. Certainly you could point to a Barack Obama as the leader of this ruling class. But I think ultimately the deep state is like a flock of birds. They all know what the ultimate goal and destination is, and they move together as if they're one, which is why it makes it so hard to root them out, because you can't pinpoint the head of the deep state. So you heard the CIA spying on the DIG, the Directors Initiative Group. They want to know, what are they finding out? What's the danger here? It's so intertwined and interconnected, and ultimately they were shut down. Why? Ultimately, the president needs the CIA more than he needs the Director of National Intelligence. Director of National Intelligence may be higher on the food chain, but it doesn't matter. It's what President Trump needs, what serves his purpose, not in a bad way, but in a good way. And so, again, it's probably upsetting to realize as we talk about all of this, and you see how just corrupt it all is, how secretive it all is, how things are never what they seem. We'll never get the straight scoop. I don't want you to give up on government, because there was a time when government was good. I think you go back to our founding fathers and the original signing of the Declaration of Independence. You had a government by and for the people that were well-intentioned. But slowly and pretty quickly after the Declaration of Independence was signed, after we start our own government, you could see the power vacuums start to begin. And this goes back long time. We're never going to get rid of those power vacuums. What we've got to do is try to figure out a way to operate within the framework where the power vacuums don't harm innocent American citizens as much as they do now. Because right now, I don't believe it's a government by and for the people. I think it's a government against the people. And I do think President Trump is pushing back on that. I do think President Trump wants to root out the deep state. But I do think once he gets in there and he starts looking at some of these secrets and he starts looking to see how advanced our enemies are, specifically China, where he is today, and President Trump's left saying, what am I going to do? I can't expose all this to make my base happy, because now I put ourselves at risk. And you know that President Trump cares more about keeping Americans safe than he does about making you happy. And I'm grateful for that in a president. So the mainstream media blasted Trump for saying he doesn't care what it means for gas prices for going after Iran. What President Trump was saying is gas prices don't matter if we're all dead. He knows the world's a safer place if Iran has no nuclear weapon than worrying about the cost of groceries, but getting a nuclear bomb on our head sent here by a ballistic missile that the Democrats were supposed to stop Iran from having. The game of chess is so difficult in Washington. They say 3D chess. It's a stupid term. Like, literally, in order to see every piece moving, you'd have to be at every level, and there are so many layers in this. Gibberish Nation writes, Brennan, speaking of John Brennan, former director of the CIA, is playing the long game with his minions. The larger question is power source, exactly, because not an individual or collective of old or new endless wealth. And that's what I get back to, this flock. The power source is the collective deep state. I know it sounds so corny to say something like that, but that's the power of the group that thinks and acts like one. And they operate. Sometimes for the benefit of us, mostly not. Mostly not. And I don't want you to confuse my protection of secrets keeping as a protection of the deep state. I'm not. In a perfect world, I would have every intelligence agent, every FBI agent being well-intentioned, freedom-loving, loving the American people, an oath to defend us against all evil. In a perfect world, that's what I want, and understand they have to have tools that not everybody can know about, but we don't live in a perfect world. There are layers inside those agencies that are at play. You've got some well-intentioned, you've got some superheroes, and you've got some minions, and then you've got evildoers. And the trick is to navigate all of that at the same time. I, quite frankly, don't know how you do that at all. Hold on one second. So I don't know how you navigate that. Anyway, all right, I'm getting texts here. This is what happens when I try to do two things at once. All right, so let's get back to this whistleblower, though, and specifically when it comes to COVID. Here we go.
Is it your testimony that there is still resistance from the CIA to comply with the law we passed to declassify all the COVID information?
Yes.
One of the things that I think is new today that I'm hearing from your testimony is that from an early period of time, you believe, and the information you're aware of, is that CIA scientists from an early time after the pandemic began, 2020, 2021, were concluding that the lab leak was the most likely hypothesis?
Yes, Senator. I'd like to offer some qualifications on that as well. A lot of the issues occurred at the interagency space, at the National Intelligence Council, the individuals responsible for conducting or writing WMD analysis. So, and many of those individuals are on JDA from the CIA. But yes, very early, as early as 2020, there were agencies within the IC circulating papers that that said, hey, there's, for example, DOE circulated a paper in May of 2020 that said that all the conditions were present for a lab leak. And I could go through the timeline, but yes, my short answer is yes, periodically throughout 2020 all the way to 2024. Yes.
I think the arguments, pro and con for what is the evidence on whether this came from a lab or came from nature are still important. So for years, we've been asking the CIA to produce the scientists, either in a classified setting or a public setting, to discuss the arguments. I don't see any reason why the arguments should be classified. One of the arguments that's made publicly is that the source looks like it came from a single source of RNA, not like 5 different types of viruses or 20 different types like you had with SARS 2003, but it came from one source, and virtually everybody argues that sort of indicates a lab and not a nature. And so those arguments are important scientific arguments to have, but we've been prevented from having them. We've been preventing from getting all of the declassified information.
Think about how we were prevented from this. I was at Newsmax telling you it was not a wet market, telling you it came from the lab. President Trump agreed. We were vilified. That was really the start of the social media censoring. Now you go back to the deep state inside government. It wasn't just the social media companies. Remember, it was government telling the social media companies to shut this argument down, to deplatform us. Complete anti-American behavior of squashing our speech and the idea of dissent and raising questions against a government that cannot fully be trusted. Fact is, it can't be trusted at all. So nobody covers this. Nobody covers the situation with the vaccine, about how awful it was.
I need the mainstream media, CBS, ABC, CNN, to step forward and start covering what is a major scandal. How many thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of people are permanently disabled or possibly lost their life because our FDA hid the fact that there were safety signals screaming at them with the COVID injection. So again, you can't answer all my questions in terms of but we need to figure out who is running this deep state.
Bingo. And again, that gets back to the Flock of Eagles. No, it's not Eagles. The Flock of Eagles was a great band, by the way. I ran so far away. You remember that? I had to get away. Yeah. Deep state's a problem. Now, President Trump's in China. All this unfolds while he's there. Probably by design as well. So we're having a hearing about the Wuhan lab on the day President Trump lands in China. But here's what's going to probably surprise you. President Trump is not going to be confrontational with Xi Jinping in China. President Trump is going to go there with an olive branch and try to make an economic friend out of China, even though he knows you can't trust him. Now, you can trust China when it comes to a business deal. If they say they're going to buy 100 engines from GE Aerospace, they're going to buy 100 engines from GE Engines, okay? Where they can't be trusted, they say, oh, well, we won't interfere with your elections. You better believe they're still going to interfere with your elections. So I'm going to tell you how I believe President Trump should approach this from a negotiating standpoint here in just a minute. But while we're talking about pandemics and all of the craziness, I would urge you to go to the wellness company, twc.health/grant. Look at their products. Get yourself healthy. They've got so many products that are so great. But specifically right now, this contagion kit, I think every family should have. It's got hydrochloroquine in it, ivermectin in it, a nebulizer in it. There's a steroid in it that you're able to, I believe it's a steroid inhaler. All of this is what you need to keep you and your family safe if there was to be some kind of outbreak of any kind. Hydrochloroquine and ivermectin seem very, very useful against many of these types of things. So we're hearing about the hantavirus and all those things, the scare tactics. But if you want to be prepared and you don't have to be scared about anything, you go to the wellness company, twc.health/grant. Use that promo code GRANT for 10% off and prepare yourself. And by the way, they've got weight loss products there, everyday supplements there. And my favorite, which I've really been using, is TheraBlue, this peptide-based, deep penetrating pain gel. TheraBlue. twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. All right, so President Trump goes to China, and he gets greeted by, I find this to be hilarious. This is Trump with a bunch of screaming school kids. Like, how often did they practice this? How long did they practice this for? Trump loves it. These kids jumping up and down, screaming. You got the military in the background. One thing President Trump loves is a show. Look at that. It looks so staged. Just jump up and down. So this is how they do it in China. And I'm telling you, President Trump loves every bit of it. Now, I will say I believe this is the most important state visit that President Trump has had in his time in office, first term and second. A lot of heightened tensions going on. Of course, we got the Iran war going on and all these things. Now, here's what I would advise President Trump not to do. Not that I need to tell him how to negotiate. He's the greatest negotiator out there. Don't ask Xi Jinping for things you're not going to get. And the reason I tell you that is because the worst negotiating place you can be is asking for something that you'll never achieve in the negotiation. If you go in and ask Xi Jinping, I don't want you to help Iran out as we try to navigate this. China may say, okay, we won't. But then they're going to anyway, right? Like, you realize that. President Trump is not going to convince China to stop helping Iran. So then it'll come out that they told Trump that he'd stop, but then they did it anyway. And then now you've got this battle where you don't ask them. We've got Iran handled, as President Trump has said over and over again. We've got Iran handled. We don't need China's help. Just ignore it. Don't come in confrontationally about religious persecution, election engineering. Yes, China does all of those things. They're not stopping doing those things. So what President Trump needs to do is get China reliant on the United States. He's already doing that by seizing oil. You know, we've got these tankers. China needs Iranian oil. America is going to be the decider of whether or not China gets that oil. And as an olive branch, President Trump can release some of it, as he's already done. So Venezuela, same thing. You put China reliant on us, and then he brings, 30 of the who's who of American boardrooms to China? Why would he do that? He'd do that to get them making deals with China. I think he's going to allow NVIDIA to sell chips to China. And that's going to be big for here at home because we're going to make the chips here and sell them to them instead of making the chips over there and sell them to us here. We have to make China reliant on us. We have to flip the script. And I do think that's what this is all about. So there were some things that were said in this initial meetings, and they're big. Listen. Well, I don't know if I can hear that. Let me.
Our discussion is a big discussion. There are those that
Hold
say
on, let me
this is
start
maybe the totally reciprocal on our behalf. So I really look very much forward to our discussion. It's a big discussion. There are those that say this is maybe the biggest summit ever. They can never remember anything like it. I can say in the United States, people aren't talking about anything else. But it's an honor to be with you. It's an honor to be your friend. And the relationship between China and the USA is going to be better than ever before. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now, can you imagine if China and the United States are economic partners? Boy, oh boy, what a great thing that would be. But again, I warn you this. Never trust China. You cannot trust them. China's sole goal, they spell it out, they want to control the whole world. That is their goal. Know that going in. But they can be used for good things, as they can use us for good things. Fine. Start that trade. They're better off friendly with us than they are as enemies of us. And President Trump realizes that, and so does Xi Jinping.
Thank you again, President Xi.
Hold on, let me. I don't know why the audio is so low on this.
It's my honor to extend an invitation to you, Madam Peng, to visit us at the White House this September 24th, and we look forward to it. And I'd now like to raise a glass and propose a toast to.
So that's pretty amazing. So we invited Xi Jinping to come to the United States and meet at the White House in September. Now, why September? Think about it. It's a stall tactic. You can't have adversarial relations if you know I'm going on a date with you 4 months from now. Everybody's got to kind of behave and get along leading up to the date. It's a brilliant move on President Trump's part. And Xi Jinping knows the same thing. It works in Xi Jinping's favor just as much as it does in Trump's favor. And this is why when Xi Jinping said this through a translator, was one of the biggest moments. Now, you take it for what it's worth, but it is a big moment that it was said out loud.
And a stable bilateral relationship is good for the world. China and the United States both stand to gain from cooperation and lose from confrontation. We should be partners, not rivals. We should help each other succeed and prosper together and find the right way for major countries to get along well with each other in the new era. Mr. President, I look forward to our discussions on major issues important to our two countries and the world, and working together with you to set the course for and steer the giant ship of China-U.S. relations so as to make 2026 a historic land.
Strategic partners. Now, it's said out loud. Do I believe him? No. Would China love to dominate the United States? Of course. But this is headed in the right direction. President Trump is doing what no other president could do with China, and that is somewhat like a lion tamer. You never completely control the lion, but you're safe enough around him if you're a good lion tamer. This is what President Trump is doing. He's taming the lion. And in some respects, Xi Jinping is taming the lion in President Trump. You got two guerrillas, two very formidable foes. Do not think that Xi Jinping is not smart. He's sly as a fox, strong as an ox. Same as President Trump, sly as a fox, strong as an ox. And I think that's why these two leaders like each other. And again, that, folks, is good for America. So what's not good for America is when you have political leaders like Chuck Schumer taking to the national stage to somehow weaken America's stance, somehow weaken President Trump's position, and then just spew lies to the American public about what's actually going on.
American business isn't going to fall for this bunk. And then there are many other things we all worry about that Trump would or could do to weaken American workers, families, and businesses when he gets out-negotiated by Xi. And that's happened time and time again. Donald Trump, here is some...
Now, let me ask you, when has that happened? When has Trump been out-negotiated by anybody? Never. This guy has some cojones to get up here. Chuck Schumer's a nobody if it wasn't for him being a United States senator in a very powerful position. But he's not a great businessman. He's not a negotiator. He got eaten alive by President Trump. Remember that Oval Office meeting where Trump says, literally, I'll shut the government down. It's on you. He just basically told him flat out. Who the hell is Chuck Schumer to tell President Trump? Why can't he root for President Trump? Why can't he say, we need this to be a very good visit? I'm hopeful that President Trump can. I called the president. I gave him some things that I thought were important to talk about. President Trump took my call. Wouldn't it be great if Schumer could do that with Trump? But in American politics today, it's nearly impossible because the left is insincere. The left hates America. I promise you, Trump would take the call. I promise you, most Republicans would take the call from any leftist. You go today, who's one of the most conservative members of Congress today? Maybe Lauren Boebert, okay, or Tim Burchett. If AOC called them and says, hey, I want to talk to you, I want a meeting, they'd meet with them. But if they called AOC and asked for a meeting, I guarantee you she doesn't meet with them because AOC's dumb. Our side isn't. Schumer continued.
Some of the things that Donald Trump could do that we all worry about. American workers, American families, American people, American companies worry about.
Don't worry about anything with Trump at the helm. Now, I would like the Iran war to be over. I've said that. Just end it, please. But I'm not worried. I feel like we're headed in a good direction. Stock market's been great. I believe the economy is doing very well. I understand the price of things are not where we want them to be, but remember, they were even higher under Joe Biden, no matter what the mainstream media tells you. Gas prices were higher than they are now, and we weren't dealing with a war then. They were just high because Biden sucked. So at least there's fundamentals as to why we are where we are today. All right. Listen, folks, Patriot Mobile. I love this company. It is a conservative activist organization. PatriotMobile.com/grant. 972-PATRIOT is the number. Call them today to sign up. Switching so easy. It literally takes minutes with these eSIM cards now. You can keep your phone. You can upgrade your phone. You get a new phone, whatever you want to do. Patriot Mobile will help you do it in minutes. 100% U.S.-based customer service. You pick what network you want to be on, one of the big three networks, or two. I have two lines on this. I have a Verizon and an AT&T line on this phone through Patriot Mobile. That's the way to do it. So I'm paying Patriot Mobile, not the freaking funding of the left. If you're with those other cell phone companies, you're literally funding the left. I hope you know that. Get with the official cell phone provider of Stinchfield's Army. That's Patriot Mobile. And know that you're with a team that's pushing America forward. Free month service. Use the promo code GRANT, patriotmobile.com/grant, patriotmobile.com/grant. Use that promo code GRANT for a free month's service. Okay. Just to end it on the deep state and how awful they are. This was a news conference by Andy Ogles, congressman, I know, from Arizona. Tennessee, not Arizona. Tennessee. Really nice guy. This is talk about another real strong conservative. This is Ogles.
For those of you in the media, when they took my phone and my emails, there were private conversations that I was having or had with President Trump, with the Speaker of the House, with senators, with members of Congress, with the media. And they were trying to use that to get to them and to get to you. The Biden administration was on a warpath. And if they deemed you a threat, then they did whatever they could to destroy you. If not criminally, they tried to do it financially or publicly. Fortunately, I prevailed. Congressman Perry prevailed. The others in these cases have prevailed. But it should be a warning to America. It matters who leads. And thank God we have President Trump.
Amen. Now that gets to who's spying on a sitting member of Congress. That's the deep state. That's the entity inside the intelligence agencies that I need rooted out, because they are not acting in the best interest of Americans. They're acting in the best interest of the power brokers. They didn't want their scams to be exposed. So you've got two things going on, and you've got to figure them all out. We need the CIA. We need the FBI. You can call them different names. You can reorg them. You can do whatever you want, but we need them. I think everybody would agree with that. What we don't need are bad actors inside them. So you can't just blow the whole place up, because you got to figure out who's a good actor and who's a bad actor. And I think bad actors, there are more of them than there are good actors, which makes it even more difficult. Because sometimes the bad actors actually do some good things. They want to bring you information about China and expose to the powers to be about, but on the same side of it, they're doing it in a wrong manner. They're spying on American citizens. You do away with all of them, we may be put at a disadvantage. So President Trump is in one of the most precarious spots I think any president has ever been in, because once he committed to rooting out the deep state, he realized in order to do that, you actually put America at a disadvantage while we lose all of these bodies. Because the bad actor isn't always bad. They're just sometimes bad. Right? I'm sure James Comey along the way at the FBI put together a good case that was good for America. So he did a good thing sometimes, but then he became very bad. And his bad things certainly outweighed the good. So this is the balance that they have to play. I appreciate all of you. Stinchfield's Army rolls. We'll see you tomorrow, same time here. We'll be doing a little bit more of this on the Real America's Voice show. I believe I have a CIA agent lined up to come talk to me about what's going on here. Now, you get more of the inside scoop as this starts to unfold today. But God bless all of you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Stinchfield's Army rolls.